This is the Danger Close podcast, Beyond the Books with me, Jack Carr. Welcome to the Danger Close podcast, an Ironclad original presented by Sig Sauer. My guest today is my friend Donnie Edwards. And if you're a sports fan, you probably know him from his days playing at UCLA, then with the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Diego Chargers, one of the best to ever play the game. And what you might not know is that he now runs a foundation called the Best Defense Foundation that has a transition program for people leaving active duty from the military, has an education program, and a battlefield return program. And Donnie's been taking veterans of World War II back to the battlefields on which they fought for a number of years. And that's where his passion and his mission align today. So we talk about that. We talk about the NFL. We talk about growing up and a bunch of other things on this podcast. You can find him at Donnie, DONNIE _ Edwards on Instagram. And then you can find Best Defense Foundation on Instagram and bestdefensefoundation.org on their website. So check those out for sure. And now, without further ado, my friend, Donnie Edwards. Your story is incredible. And so what was that first spark that, not necessarily that on the NFL and athletic side of the house, but on when you realized that how much opportunity that we all have in this country and that tie to military service and to those people who gave everything, whether they didn't make it back from the battlefield or they came home with the emotional and physical trauma of the battlefield. But the things they did down there allowed us to have the freedoms that we do today. Where did you first get that spark or that inkling, or where did you start thinking about that? Was that at a young age? And who was the person that kind of sparked that for you?
Yeah, it happened with me when I was really young. My grandfather had a ranch in Mexico, and I remember it was like an outhouse. So in order to go to the bathroom, you have to go to the outhouse. And I never forget that because I really didn't understand that. Growing up in America, you really don't understand that. And he was just telling me like, that's how it is here in this country. You know, a lot of people don't have money. You don't have opportunity to push yourself further than the family that you're born into. But he said, you know what? I served in Pearl Harbor. I served in Okinawa. We fought really hard to give you opportunity here in this country. And he said, doesn't matter where you come from. Call me Boo Boo. He's like, Boo Boo, doesn't matter where you come from. You can achieve anything if you work hard at it. In America, you have opportunity. And if you work hard, you can achieve anything. And I never forgot that because I'm one of 11 kids. I come from a very big family here in San Diego, and big military family from starting my grandfather on everybody else, my sisters, my stepdad, my dad, everybody. So it's just entwined into my family, into myself, because I understand the sacrifice, not only for, the sailor or the trooper or the Marine, it's also with the family because we're all affected. My sister, she spent 12 months in Iraq a few years ago, and they kept extending her. And she has a 6-year-old son, Noah, and he's been passing around from family member to family member. And it's a big effect on that kid in his life. And the stress that my sister was, trying to do her job in Iraq, but also, make sure that her son is okay. So, I truly understand all of that, and being around it in San Diego, and to be able to look at my life and to know where I started and where I'm now, to have this platform to give back, to raise awareness of the freedoms and the opportunities that we do have in this country.
Amazing. And your grandfather, did he share a lot about the war with you, or did you go back and research some of the things that he did later on, or how did that work? How did he pass some of those lessons on to you, or what was his experience? How did he end up in World War II? Was he already in? Did he get drafted? Did he volunteer? How did that work?
Yeah, well, he was in the 25th Infantry Division. He was here in the California National Guard over at Camp Roberts, Fort Ord, right here in California, and they made his National Guard group into the 25th Infantry. So right before Pearl Harbor, I believe September of 1941, they all, took a ship out there to Pearl Harbor. And we all know what happened on December 7th, 1941. He was a part of that He's one of the survivors of that. And um, he always talked about his buddies that he lost on that day. And always on Christmas and Easter at Mass, he was so proud. He wore his uniform to Mass. And he always talked about the guys that he lost. And, he's always pushing me to go further. You can do it, and when you have someone like your grandfather who you respect and you look up to believe in you, you start to believe in yourself. And he really instilled that in me for sure.
Okay. When he got back from the war, what did he do?
Back from the war, he got into machine metals and things like that. So he had his own business doing metal work. He had his own shop and everything here in San Diego. So he did that for a number of years.
When I look back at that generation and see how they came back with zero transition program. I mean, the GI Bill was incredible, and a lot of guys took advantage of that. But that's work in and of itself, just figuring those things out and then committing to that, and then just how they got back to work and built this country into what it is today. So I thought about that a lot in Buds as I was going through, and we had the boats on our heads, the logs over our heads, on that swim, on that run, you're getting yelled at, you're tired, you're hungry. It's like day 4 of Hell Week or whatever. I thought, the landing craft gate door isn't about to just, go down into the surf. I'm not about to run across an open space through a hail of bullets from an elevated position. And I'm like, I can hold this log over my head a little while longer, here in sunny Southern California. I can go a little while longer here. So I thought about them, and then I thought about everything that people have sacrificed from the inception of this country up until today that allowed me to be on that beach.
Right.
So I'm curious for you, did you think about that in the NFL when when you're trying out, or when you were in high school, or did you think about those guys and what they'd sacrificed during that time frame and how much harder it was for them, or did it put things in perspective? Because for me,
it definitely
really
puts
put
things
things
into
in
perspective. No, for sure it does. We all think about how hard our lives are and what we're going through and how difficult it is. But when you see someone else that doesn't have a leg or has some other issue that you don't have, it makes you put into perspective your life. Like, what the heck am I complaining about? I mean, look at this guy here. Look at this guy. Look how. Like, if I'm complaining about myself right now and I'm looking at him and he's living his life, he's cheerful, it makes you put into perspective. And it really helped me learning from other people. Growing up, I really didn't have a lot of role models, but I had a lot of people that I looked up to, and I tried to grab their qualities that they had in their lives and apply it to my life. And, looking at the hard work that, the men and women in our military do. And I think about when I'm sucking wind or sucking ass in training camp or in football and I'm just tired, I think about the bravery and the tenacity and motivation of the guys to overcome and through the mission. It kind of pushes me. So, when I played ball, I always looked to certain things in the military to push me over the edge, to keep me going, to look at our old warriors and see what they did. It's like, heck, if they can do it, heck, I'm just playing football, and it's really pushed me. It's incredible when you look at their old warriors and see what they went through. It kind of helped this generation as we're going through now, and so many people to have those qualities.
Yep. And my experience with those guys is that they didn't complain. Like, they came back and got back to work. That seems to be a common thing. I mean, I'm sure there are, people here and there that complain, but as a general rule, or as a general group, like, they came back, looked to their right and left, I think, and saw, their peers getting back to work, diving in, building this country. And they did the same. They didn't dwell, at least publicly, on
Right.
how hard they had it or what they had. They just got after it. So I think about that all the time. Like, those guys got to work. And that's the one thing that you have to do, regardless of what field that you're in. Like, you have to put in that work. You can sit there and mope and think about how hard you have it. And you know what? If you don't do the work, I guarantee you're not going to get where you're going to go. You're not going to move that ball forward. But if you put in that work, still not a guarantee. You could still get hit. But if you don't put in that work, for sure, you're not moving that ball forward.
Amen. And you think about, some of the old warriors, right? And the resources that they did not have after they, got done with their military service. And, just like my grandfather, he never talked about it. I mean, growing up with him in the 70s and 80s, he really didn't talk about it. He talked about his buddies, and we used to go to the VFW all the time, and he's hanging out with his buddies, and hey, boo boo, go get us, go get some Budweiser, and a rack of pool balls and stuff like that. But it was just that bond and that brotherhood that they had. But no one really talked about it, and they just went back to work, raised families, and went about their ways. Only until about 20 years ago, where a lot of these guys started talking about their service, right? And we started to learn from them. And then fast forward to our, Iraq and Afghanistan veterans. I mean, we have so many more resources available and so many things that we are discussing now, and it's okay to talk about now. Whereas back then you didn't talk about it. Was it shell shock or some of these other things that you go through, and you didn't talk about it, like, oh, suck it up and keep going, but now it's great to have that community to, to push each other and to help each other.
Yeah, and I think Band of Brothers really helped with that. It's popular culture showcasing these veterans who are in those twilight years that are getting together, and they're talking about this experience in a way that is that's appropriate, that's respectful. That with obviously, we've all seen Band of Brothers, but I think that probably helped a lot of people start talking about that and seeing, wow, hey, look at this guy talking about it here on Band of Brothers. I'm gonna pass this along to my grandchild, or I'm gonna talk about it for the first time with my son or my daughter, or that sort of thing. So I think that really, kind of helped spur some of that.
It definitely started the
generation.
conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
opening
it
up a little
definitely
bit.
started the conversation for sure. Especially like Saving Private Ryan. Like, hey, Grandpa, was it like this?
Right.
And he starts the conversation because now you can actually visualize it and see it. And then it starts coming back, and then the conversation starts, and people start talking about it more, and more people start learning about it. And I mean, I think that movie alone just kind of, just gave so much motivation for this next generation to look back and to see what our grandfathers went through, which is so important. Yep. I mean, it's been great, especially some of our old warriors. I mean, they never really talked about it, to give them this opportunity in their twilight years to come back and to have that bond and that camaraderie and that brotherhood, to go back on different terms and see the love and adulation that they so truly deserve when they go back to France or to Holland. Everybody comes out for them, and it's just so special, which is so important for them in their lifetime. And it's been difficult, Jack. We've been losing a lot of our old warriors. We just lost another one. This gentleman here, Roy Warwick, 5th Ranger Battalion guy. It's a tough thing about what we do right now. We want to make sure that we salute and honor all of our warriors, starting from the oldest to the youngest, and especially with our old ones. It's kind of sad that, we're losing them on a daily basis now. But I'm just really happy that, in their twilight years, we gave them opportunity to finally have that closure, to finally go back and see what all their hard work and sacrifice from all their brothers and sisters during that time, and the freedom and the opportunity that so many people around the world have today. It's just so special.
No, I mean, what you're doing with Best Defense Foundation, it's so unique. It's so important. And you do it in a way that is, it's just incredible. I can't wait to be a part of it and go with you on one of these and help, wheel somebody around or do whatever I need to do to help out. But did you always know you were going to do something like that after the NFL? Or let's go back a little bit to, let's say, junior high. When did you know, hey, I'm going to the NFL, or I am focused on going to the NFL, or, when did that kind of come about? Or when did you have that in your head, like, hey, if I work hard enough, I can get up there, I can be there, I can be on that field. When did you start?
I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you, Jack. In junior high school, I never even thought about going to the NFL. I never really thought about it. My goal, number one, was to go to college. And I knew that I was going to join the Marine Corps right here in Camp Pendleton. So I had a recruiter and everything. I was going to join the Marine Corps because I just really wanted, at the time in 91, it was right after Desert Storm, around that time. And I wanted to join. I wanted to get my GI Bill because I wanted to be the first one of my whole generation to get a college degree. And that was my ultimate goal. And that's why I had, purpose in getting good grades at the time. And football was there, and baseball and basketball. And I just figured, I'll just keep working hard on that. I wasn't the biggest, I wasn't the fastest at all, but there's one thing that I had was hard work and work ethic. I'll put the time in. I'm a skinny, lanky, kid at a high school. I think it was 180 pounds. So, I mean, I just kind of worked hard in the weight room and in the classroom and just kind of outworked everybody else. And, it paid off. And, to have that choice to either go into the Marine Corps or go to UCLA on a foot-right scholarship, I definitely chose to do that. I mean, when I went to UCLA, I was 180 pounds. I was 6'3", 180 pounds playing linebacker in Division I.
Wow.
So I redshirted that year, and my goal was still not to go to the NFL. I didn't think I was going to go to the NFL because everybody else around me was, they're big and much bigger and faster and stronger, and I'm like, wow, So I figured I'll get my shot. I just continued to work extremely hard on my diet, in the weight room, in the classroom, on the field, and but ultimately my goal was to get a degree, and I ended up graduating early at UCLA and going on to graduate school. So it's pretty amazing how things just happen. Because if you just put your head down and you work hard, go after it, it's amazing what you can accomplish. If you're not always popping your head up and say, "Oh my God, look where I'm at right now." I'm always trying to push. I'm always trying to be a better version of myself, be the ultimate, and give 100% in everything that I do. And I'll tell you, I mean, playing pro football is just a byproduct of me pushing myself to go to college and have a college degree. I mean, and it worked out. I mean, after 14 years in the NFL, it gives me this tremendous platform to give back through the Best Defense Foundation to all the men and women that served this great country, that gave me an opportunity, to play football, to change my life financially and those around me, to get educated. I mean, only in America, this flag right here, only in America, but I know it's not free. I mean, I've been very fortunate to go to over 70 countries of the world and to see what life is outside of this country. And I got to tell you, I mean, it's not perfect, but by far, it's the best country in the world. And that's on the men and women that serve. And I know that for a fact. And that's why I want to make sure that, I want to make sure we bring awareness to that. And I'm using, my background in football, my platform, to raise awareness to that and make sure that we recognize, celebrate, and honor all those who serve.
Amen, brother. Oh, man. So when did you find, when you were at UCLA, and your head's down, and I totally agree with you. If you're picking your head up, you're looking over here, you're doing this over here, you're worried about this, or you're thinking about the odds of making it to the NFL or becoming a SEAL or becoming a novelist or whatever it is, you know what? All that bandwidth wasn't put into your diet, into the weight room, into training, into watching tape, all those things that you need to do because you wasted that bandwidth worried over here about how hard it is, how difficult it is, or you looked up and looked around, and that bandwidth wasn't focused on making you a better person, a better operator, a better football player, whatever it might be. So there is definitely something to that, putting that head down, focus, keep all that bandwidth focused where it needs to be. Because even with it a little bit over here, like that's wasted bandwidth. Right. You need to take that. It needs to be focused right here. So I love how you do that. It's just such an amazing example of just perseverance, resilience, commitment. It fires me up, man. God,
yeah, no, it's a mindset. You guys know, I mean, it's a mindset for sure. It's a mindset. And, you can call it a mindset. You can call it fear. You can call it whatever. And I tell guys in the huddle, I'm like, look, I don't care what the hell motivates you. Just get motivated. If it's money, fear, women, whatever, like on the field, when you need to make it happen, just get motivated and make it happen. It's just a mindset. And for me, I got to tell you, like a lot of my push was out of fear of going back to where I came from. I mean, I didn't want to, live the way I grew up. And, my push every time was, if I don't succeed, if I'm not the first one, if I'm not the best one, then I'm going to go back to that, and I'm going to be a failure. And I just constantly push myself because I think the fear of failing, and I just want to push myself so much. And I think it just really helped me.
Oh man, I love it. When you're at UCLA, at what point while you're there, are you like, hey, you know what? NFL, I'm going. Or hey, this is an option. This is a serious option for me. If I do, X, Y, and Z and stay focused. Like when did that start to become part of your calculus?
Well, honestly, I mean, I started my freshman year. So after I redshirted that year, I put 10 pounds on to about 190, and I was playing linebacker, just skin and bones. But I played extremely well, and I knew that I can play in this league. And what happens, like you talked about earlier, Jack, is like, having those voices in your head, like you start worrying about other things that kind of distract you. So I try to just push that out the way because I was the person that was preventing me to, to push harder because I kept thinking like, oh my God, the guys in the NFL, they're so much bigger and stronger and faster and all this stuff. But, hey, I'm playing the same game and I'm performing. So I think what happens when I started to have success on the field, it really built my confidence to know that, hey, I can play this level. And I realized that. So I blocked out all that negativity about saying like, you're too small, you're too skinny, you're not a linebacker, like all this stuff. Like you make it to the league, it's all these bigger guys and bigger and stronger. But, once I started playing my freshman year, I started, since my freshman year and then my sophomore year, I was all conference of the Pac-12. And then my junior year, I was an All-American. And what I realized, I started getting letters from all the different teams. And I think I might have saved some letters too, because I had a whole bunch of letters from teams. I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. Right. And I'm like, I can do it. I can do it. So I just really focused on working hard, studying, and trying to be the best player I can possibly be. And that's what I realized, that I knew that I could make it. But, I came at a crossroads actually, because after my junior year, I was an All-American and I was already done with school. I was already graduated my undergrad in political science. And so I was done and I was going to come out, but talked to my coaches and stuff. They say, you should stay in for your last year because you'll go higher in the draft. And because right now at the time, like linebackers weren't 225 pounds. Like I played in the league for so many years, and what teams want now. Back then they were like 255, 260 linebackers. And, they said, you need to gain some more weight. You need to get to 240 and then maybe you go higher in the draft. I said, well, I already graduated. What do I do? They said, well, you can take some extra classes. And I said, well, heck, could I, go to graduate school? And they said, if you can get in. So fast forward, I was one of the first student athletes to play football and also be in graduate school at the time. So I ended up staying in. Yeah. So it's crazy. So I ended up staying in, but here's the part that I always go back in my head. So second game of the season, my senior year, I'm like, top 3 linebackers for that year coming out, and like all the accolades, all the magazines and stuff like that. Like I'm like this is my year to shine, to get higher in the draft. And second game of the season, on fourth and short, I'm playing linebacker, and a big fullback from Oregon. It was probably 265. I was probably 225 at the time. And he jumps up, like the goal line play where he jumps up and a linebacker jumps up and tries to meet him at the top. Well, I stepped on someone's foot and I wasn't able to jump up, and he was like right here. And I don't want him to get the touchdown or the first down. And I just just pushed up with everything I had. And I hit him on the top of my crown of my head and my hands. Long story short, I ended up breaking my back on that play. Oh. So yeah. So I don't know. I got this shock all the way down my legs, and I just started to like freak out, thinking that I was paralyzed. And I remember laying on the ground, just started moving my fingers and my feet. Whoa. I'm like, okay, I'm not paralyzed, but I had this shock that lasted for a couple minutes. And then I came off the field and, got an MRI and everything. And they said, you broke your back. I'm like, so anyways, I had a compression fracture, T4, 5, and 6 in my thoracic. And I missed my whole entire senior year. And I started to reevaluate my decisions at the time. Like, why'd I stay in? I should have just left. I was All-American, already graduated. And I started going back in my head. And it was a very difficult year because I wasn't part of the team. I wasn't part of the guys. And the crazy thing about it is like, you get hurt, they just put you to the side and to move the drill up. Like they keep playing. And I'm like, yeah, hey, what about the captain? No, the game has to go on, and the mission has to continue, for sure. But long story short, I ended up going in the 4th round. I missed the whole year. I think I played like last game of the season against USC, and then ended up getting drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs in 1996 in the 4th round. And to be honest with you, I was so pissed that I went in the 4th round because I was slated to be a 1st round pick. But because I had a broken back, I was like 195 pounds at this time. I lost all the weight from not being able to lift or run. I went in the 4th round, and I just had a chip on my shoulder. Like, I'm going to show all you guys who passed me up, who didn't pick me, that I'm a player. And I think it did all right.
Yeah, I think you did. So what happened then? So you get drafted 4th round. Now you're there, you're Kansas City, and then you just start working again. Head down.
Yeah. It's like the next level, right? There's always different levels you keep going, right? I mean, you got to reestablish yourself. Just like you guys go to a different team, you got to reestablish yourself to make sure that you can be a team member, a teammate. And, here I am, on another team, and I'm looking at all these guys that I grew up watching, like wearing their jersey. Like all of a sudden I'm standing right next to Derek Thomas. I'm like, oh my, that's Derek Thomas, and it's just crazy. You go through all these emotions, but then again, it's that voice you got to push out. Like, don't let this distort your work and keep your head down and working. You can do it. You are here. You're just like them. Right. So it's like that constant mindset that you have in your head. But I was pretty strong on. And so then that rookie year, because at the time, Marty Schottenheimer, our head coach, he didn't play. I mean, a lot of teams didn't play rookies. Doesn't matter if you're in the 1st round or 2nd round. They didn't play rookies. And I got my first opportunity on Thanksgiving Day against the Detroit Lions to start before the game. Gunther Cunningham, our defensive coordinator, says, "You ready?" They call me Surfer Boy because that was Derek Thomas' name for me. Surfer Boy, you're starting today. And they ran the run and shoot, and they said, you have to you have to cover Barry Sanders. I'm like, oh.
That's awesome.
I'm like Barry Sanders. I'm 22, 23 years old. And I'm like, I have a Barry Sanders jersey at my house. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know to tackle him or ask him for an autograph.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, but it's so crazy. Like once I pushed out those voices and said, hey, I'm here. I can play at this level. I had a great game. I was the defensive player of the game on Thanksgiving Day. In 1996, I had 11 tackles, I believe, an interception, and a sack. Dude. So not bad for a first start, for a rookie.
Not bad with coming off a broken back and 4th round and not playing a season. Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So many similarities actually between that and just anything else in life, I think. And like in the SEAL teams, like I showed up at Buds and I looked around. There's people of all shapes and sizes at Buds, but I remember looking at the big guys. And I was like, oh man, look at those guys. I didn't really look at the small guys. I'm like, looking at the big guys. I'm like, man. And then I watched them climb the rope, with like, not even using their feet, a couple guys like to kind of show off or whatever. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm watching them just speed through the obstacle course. And then how motivated they were at a run. I'm like, oh man, like that guy, look at how big that guy is. And then, but just like you, when we were in the surf zone, first couple hours of Hell Week, that big guy I'd been watching, he got up and went to ring that bell, and a ton of other people got up and went to ring it with him. And I was like, yes, awesome. That's the program working. It's all here. I'm like, I can do this.
It's all here.
Yep. I love that. That's so amazing. And then also with you showing up there, and you're like, Barry Sanders, no way. Like same thing, very similar to me in that after I got out, transition, and now I'm at an author's conference or whatever it is. And I'm like, David Morrell, he created the character Rambo back in 1972. I've been reading his stuff for years, since the early 80s. And now we email each other once a week, multiple times a week, sometimes. Stephen Pressfield, been reading his stuff forever. Like all these guys, Stephen Hunter, like I grew up reading these guys and I'm like next to them, and it's crazy. It's so amazing. It's so humbling, but a lot of similarities between that and in life in general. Cause those guys, they've had their head down and they've been working, project to project, research, writing, perfecting their craft, getting better, moving forward, moving that ball forward in their lives, personally and professionally. So I think there's a lot of similarities there across the board. But man, that is so awesome. And then how long did you stay at Kansas City before you got the opportunity to go back to San Diego? And did you take that so you could go home, or did you have other options out there as well and decide I'm going to San Diego?
No, actually, I spent 6 years, my first 6 years in Kansas City, and we had a coaching change. We had 2 coaching changes, and Dick Vermeil came in, and he's an offensive-minded coach, and he wanted to take the money from the defense and put it on the offense. So I was one of the highest-paid defenders on the team, and they decided to let me go. So not to fulfill my contract. So I was a free agent. So in 2002, Marty Schottenheimer went to San Diego, and he drafted me. He knows my type of character, my character, and what I bring to the table. And he brought me to San Diego, and it was a dream come true, because how many kids, grow up playing for the team that they grew up watching.
Yeah.
All of a sudden I'm back here in San Diego where it all started, where I just watched the San Diego Chargers when the Air Coryell days with Dan Fouts and Chuck Muncie and all these guys. And all of a sudden, like, I'm on that field. It was a dream come true. It truly was.
Oh, how surreal. Oh my gosh. And then during that time, when do you start doing things like, I don't know, was USO, or did you start having interaction with the troops, or did you start thinking about that sort of the side of the house, the philanthropy side of the house? And then how did that develop into Best Defense Foundation after you transitioned from the NFL? Like, how did that process work?
Yeah, well, it started during the NFL and even in college. I mean, and my grandfather was always at the VFW, so I'm always around there. I'm always around, my brothers and sisters are always around. So I'm always around it for sure. And then when I got to the league, especially in Kansas City, in Kansas City, you have Whiteman Air Force Base there. So I made a number of, trips down there and, always connecting with our troops, coming to the games, and we have military appreciation and stuff like that. And, we go and we talk, we sign autographs and that kind of stuff. And, got many opportunities to go on aircraft carriers, submarines, fly with the Blue Angels. I mean, be in tanks and shoot weapons. And go on the old course. I've done a lot of stuff interacting with guys because, we're all, like we talked about, we're all kind of cut from the same cloth, and like the same mentality and stuff like that. And it's just mutual respect for sure. And then I started doing USO tours early in my career. Been all over Afghanistan, Djibouti, Okinawa, Guantanamo, just kind of all over Turkey and everything like that, just to, make sure that we, pay our respects and make sure that, you're abroad, but we're still here thinking about you. Matter of fact, when I was in Turkey, no, I'm sorry. When we were in Dubai, UAE, my brother, who was in the Navy, his ship came in port and we're signing autographs at the PX. And he saw our posters in there and he was telling us about, oh, that's my brother. That's my brother. Like, man, that ain't your brother. And lo and behold, yeah, it's so cool. He comes in, it's like, oh man, it's your brother.
No way.
I didn't know that he was coming in port. I didn't know that he was there, but this is what it's all about. Like, this is my family, right? So this is why I support, because like, I get it, I didn't know that my brother was going to be there. Here we are halfway around the world, giving back and showing our support, respect for our troops. And, here's a family member right here. Just full circle,
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's just been wonderful. All the great things that I've, been able to do, with the troops all over, it just means so much to me because we're all the same, although I played football, my heart, bleeds red, white, and blue. And, I didn't serve actively, but I choose to serve in this capacity, to give back. And it means a lot to me. I really get a lot out of it. And, thank God for the game of football. Thank God for being born in this country to have the opportunity, man, because like, we all search for what we want to do when we get done. Right. Some of us, have a pathway. Some of us don't. What is a NFL player running a military nonprofit? Like, how does that connect?
Oh, it's fantastic. There's so many connections there, and the story is so incredible. It's fantastic. So that transition then. So I know in the military, I saw people transition, have a hard time with that transition. As I was getting near the end and picking my head up and figuring out that next chapter in life, which was writing for me. I had that passion since I was a little kid, and I combined that mission of taking care of my family with my passion for writing. And then I went straight ahead, just dove in. I saw a lot of people that had a hard time finding that next passion, finding that next mission as they went from one stage of life to the next. And for me, I recognize, hey, it's important to build off this foundation. And it doesn't have to be special operations. It doesn't have to be the NFL. It can be anything in life. You're going to have transitions, and you're going to have death of a loved one. You're going to have a divorce. You're going to have job transition, whether it's you're fired or you decide to take a risk and do something new. You're going to have to maybe move cities, whatever it is. Like, there's going to be transitions in life regardless, and you're going to get hit. You're going to get knocked down. That's just a part of the whole deal. So what I saw was that guys had a hard time in the military moving on and what they did, what I noticed was oftentimes they tried to recreate what they had in the military on the outside. They tried to recreate those feelings, not necessarily like, hey, I'm going to be part of a team that's going into the heart of Baghdad or Ramadi in the middle of the night to grab some high value target out of his bed in the middle of the night, drag him back for interrogation, and then go hit another target. Not like that, but the feelings associated with that, another team. And I recognize that, hey, no matter what this transition is in life, like it's moving forward and you have to be moving that ball forward. It's going to be different as you turn the page. It's not going to be the exact same thing that you just experienced here. So acknowledging that, I thought was powerful and is powerful for people making any transition. So for you, and as I was getting near the end there, I got to meet a few people in professional sports. Now that I'm here in Park City, I see a lot of Olympic athletes that also at some point have to make that transition. So how was that for you when you decided, when did you know it was time to leave the NFL? And then as you transitioned, when did you realize that you were going to find this next passion? You already had this passion inside you, but when could you articulate it and focus on it and say, okay, here it is. Here's my next mission in life. My mission and my passion are now coincided. I'm going to do this Best Defense Foundation and I'm moving this ball forward. And how did that work?
Yeah, well, my last few years, I got hurt. My 13th year, I tore my quad, and it was a tough year in Kansas City, 08 or 09 it was. Tore my quad. I think we went 4-12 that year, and we had a big coaching change and things like that. And so I was on the injured list. And after sitting out a year on the injured list with a torn quad, there was no way mentally to go back after 14 years and being able to play 30 years of football.
That's a good run.
Linebacker.
Yeah, that's a good run.
Yeah, it's not quarterback.
That's no joke.
It's not kicker. It's not Adam Vinatieri.
You're actually working.
Well, he's working too, but it's a different position. It's a linebacker, man. We initiate contact. Nice. And having this conversation with my wife and say, look, I'm relatively healthy right now. If I go back, there's risk involved, and it's like, do I, anyway, so I decided after sitting out, and I tell you, I was going to go to the Raiders. I was going to go to Raiders for my 15th year, and we were working on a contract, and I just had to make a U-turn and not go through with it. I just realized, like, no, because once you get it out of your head, like you said, like everything is a mindset, right? So once you get out of your head and you said, like, I'm done. And there's no way you can go back into the, the battle, to the field and play half-assed. You have to give everything to it. And I decided it's time. And it was a good run. I'm relatively healthy and on to the next thing in my life. And honestly, I didn't know what I wanted to do. When I was playing, I was doing TV. I was doing NFL Network. I had a TV show with Tony Gonzalez called The Locker Room Show in Kansas City. And I was doing the NFL Network Total Access show. On the side, I was a sideline reporter for the playoffs because every year we never made the playoffs. But I thought I was going to go down that path. But honestly, when I got done, Jack, I just decided, I want to just be done. 30 years of football. I never had a summer. I mean, every August I was putting the football helmet on and running full speed into someone bigger than me. For 30 straight years since I was 7 years old, and never really had a summer, never had a winter, never went to the mountains. I mean, like all this stuff, never went skiing, never did all this stuff. So for me, it was time for me just to, to get away. In my first year, I didn't watch anything. I just traveled. My wife and I just traveled and didn't watch. I mean, I think I watched maybe one or two games that year, just to pull back. I just wanted a fresh start and started to, think about what my next step was. And I really wasn't into doing TV. I didn't want to be an analyst in football. I just said, there's more to life that I want to do. I mean, I've been so pigeonholed for football. I want to like spread my wings and check out other things and other hobbies and, and just dabble into other things. And at the time, I mean, since 2006, I've been taking World War II veterans back to their battlefields.
Oh, you've been doing that before on your own? Okay.
Yeah, way before. When I was playing football, I used to have all these guys come to the games and have them honored at halftime, all the time. Medal of Honor recipients and just enlisted guys and just a lot of guys. I want to make sure that we highlight them and recognize them. And just a chance conversation I was doing living history, and we're bringing a bunch of World War II veterans, this one they're in their 80s, to our events. And a lot of them talked about going back to the battlefield. I'm like, you want to go back? They're like, absolutely. I'm like, why don't you go back? They said, I'm too old. I don't have any money. I can't afford it. I don't know what to do. And I said, I'll take you. They said, really? I said, yeah. I said, as long as this doesn't, not during the football season, I'll take you. And the other veteran was like, hey, I want to go too. And I'm like, you guys want to go? They're like, absolutely, I want to go back. And the third guy was like, hey, you taking those two guys? I want to go too. So long story short, back in 2005 or 2006, with some of my guys in my unit, we took 4 or 5 World War II veterans back to the battlefield. We went to Normandy, went to France, went to Holland, and they did a big ceremony, big parade. And this is a big eye opener for me. So, and I saw the impact that it had for these guys, these veterans, and what it meant to them. And I said, more of these guys need to see this and get this recognition, this respect, and just to have the love and just have, it's just incredible. It's very different when you're occupied and you have people coming from a whole different country that don't speak the language and come and liberate you, and when those liberators come back to the country that they liberated, the civilians there, they come out in the droves. I mean, it is amazing to see. And every year since then, we brought veterans back, and I was helping out. So after retired, I was I was helping out some other groups to bring veterans back. So I was always doing it. And I mean, some years I was spending 6 months overseas doing all these programs because these veterans, they all wanted to go back. I want to make sure that in their lifetime they can have this opportunity. So and then my wife is the one who says, hey, you're doing all this stuff for everybody else. Why don't you consolidate a team and do it for yourself? So we repurposed Best Defense Foundation, because we had, it's been the Best Defense Foundation since 2000. But we repurposed it to inner city kids to more just focus on our military veterans and their families. And we repurposed it and had a new, and built a team, have our mission, and surrounded with good quality people, all volunteers. We're all volunteers at the foundation right now. And, just started pressing forward. And in 2019, we did 6 programs, taking veterans back to their battlefields, from the top of Mount Suribachi in Iwo Jima to Saipan, Tinian, Guam, Normandy, Holland, Germany, Belgium, and Pearl Harbor. I mean, it was wonderful. And I'm really happy that we got an opportunity to take back some of the veterans back for the first time. Guys like Russell Pickett, who was recognized and honored in front of the world at the 75th commemoration of D-Day at the cemetery by President Donald Trump at the time. It was so special for him. And to go back to where he got blown up on the beach, on Omaha Beach, he was one of the first wave Omaha Beach guys, and he got blown up. To go back there and to give him an opportunity to have that closure was so important. And unfortunately, Russell Pickett passed away 6 months after that program to Normandy, and his family was just saying, like, thank you so much, because it meant the world to him to finally have that, to close that book. And I get goosebumps right now thinking about it, because I can't wait for you to come on program with us, because you'll see the impact that it has and what it means to these old warriors. Even myself, when, for yourself, like guys who joined the service, the military today, always look back to the past, right? And see what our what the older generation did. And that inspires all of us in the next generation to press forward. You think about what they did and what they went through. It really motivates and pushes you. Like I said, it's that mindset. If they did it, if they did it, you think like, godly, it pushes you and it motivates you. And I always think about that. So I always relate a lot of it to the military to push me as I could, as I go through my life.
Oh man, it's so incredible. I can't wait to help out.
Yeah.
And so COVID really messed things up this last year. So you had programs set up in 2020, all of them were canceled. Unfortunately, some of the guys that were scheduled to go are no longer with us. So their last year, that year would have been their last time to do it, and they didn't make it through the last year. So how is 2021 looking, and 2022 hopefully? But how's the rest of the year looking as far as programs and getting these guys where they need to go?
Yeah, well, going back to 2020, I mean, we had to just pivot. In football, I told my team, I said, "Hey, check Omaha. We got to make we got to make an audible, right?" So we still wanted to engage our veterans. I mean, because a lot of them, we give them purpose, we give them hope to keep it going, to stay healthy. We tell them, "Hey, you're coming out on program with us in September. Make sure you're staying healthy, make sure you're walking, you're eating, and all that kind of stuff." And it's been really hard for a lot of guys that are in senior centers and they can't leave the house and they feel like they're in prison, and mentally it's draining. It was very difficult. So we came up with an idea to do these live Zoom calls with the veterans, where people from around the world, kids from around the world, everybody from around the world could ask a veteran, a World War II veteran, a question. And it was really great because it really pushed these veterans to get out there and share their story and talk and communicate. I mean, although it was done digitally, via a technology, it was so good for them. And we realized, like, after the first one, how important it was to make sure we have that interaction, that connection. And I think so far we've done like 30 of them so far. Wow. And it's been really wonderful to engage them and just to get them, going and looking for the future. But we'll continue to do that as well. And then in 2021, we have some programs planned already. This December is going to be the 80th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor. So we're really working diligently on that. We're trying to get every able-bodied wanting World War II veteran that wants to attend that commemoration an opportunity, because after 80 years, I mean, if you're 18 years old at the time, you can imagine how old you are right now for the 80th. So this is what sparked everything, right? So everyone, they put their right hand up and decided to serve this country because of the events that happened on December 7th, 1941. So this is the event that changed the whole course of history in our country. And I want to make sure that we provide this opportunity for all the veterans. And hopefully, we could, really make this one for the ages and, one to remember forever. But we have some other programs lined up. Not yet etched in stone because of COVID right now. So depending if things get lifted, you know how that goes. Yep. So, we're just kind of like in a holding pattern right now. But the sad thing about it, Jack, is there's a lot of veterans that are really looking forward to and wanting to, to finally close that book and be with their brothers one last time. There's one thing that we do with our programs is like, we don't bring family, we don't bring, wives or daughters and things like that. We bring the guys. We have a great team that takes care of them. We have a full-time, medic, doctor, everybody. We have all the resources. We've been together for a long time, and it's about the bond. It's about that camaraderie. It's about, bringing the boys back together, and it's just really special because you put them in a group and all of a sudden they start talking. And some of them, some of the conversations that I've been in are really special because sometimes they talk about things that they never talk to anyone. And I'm just thinking about one situation right now where one of the veterans never even told his wife. And he says, "I feel comfortable right here in the midst of all my brothers and sisters right now because you guys speak my language. You guys understand." And he was just saying, when he killed his first German and he grew up in the church, and he's like, I understand the commandments, thou shalt not kill. And I'm 18 years old. And, all of a sudden, and I'm looking at it, and he's telling the story and how he's been carrying this burden on his back for 92 years. Wow. And he finally, I got so emotional because all the guys, I was just a bird just watching. I just kind of created the environment, and all of them are just hugging and oh man, it was just like, I went to, my partner next to me. I'm just like, that's exactly why we do what we do. To create this environment, to finally shed that piano off his back, to finally put it to rest, because, he needed to hear from his brothers and sisters, hey, you had to do what you have to do. It was either you or him, you know what I mean? So they helped him out. It was just, those are the powerful moments that, that make it so worth it, it's really special. I was thinking about, how I got to this. You asked me the question, how I got to started, this nonprofit for the military. Things just kind of morphed into it. So I was really passionate about giving back to our guys in the military and show my respect and go visit the troops and doing all this stuff. And I remember because I turned down a job, a TV job, and I'm at the Cheesecake Factory in Marina Del Rey or Redondo Beach, and I'm with a paratrooper. He was a medic in the Battle of the Bulge. He carried medics at the time weren't able to carry weapons. They only carried little pistols, 1911, but he carried a M1A1 Thompson submachine gun. And because they were shooting at him, he's like, well, God darn it, I'm going to shoot back at him, And he's, So anyway, so we were talking and he told me, he's like, hey, don't be like me. Make sure you spend time with your family, your friends, the people that you love. Don't always keep chasing the next thing, what you think that you should do. If you follow your passion, you'll find your destination. And I didn't really understand that. And then all of a sudden it just hit me, like my passion is giving back to the military. And all of a sudden I realized, hey, we can really make an impact. The platform that, we have, and we create a good team, we can really make an impact. And thus, that's how Best Defense Foundation came about. I mean, following my passion, I found my destination that helps me with my transition as well. It gives me purpose in my life, and it's been wonderful connecting with so many guys, guys like yourself and so many guys in the community. It's just wonderful to have an ally and someone that supports them, in their corner.
Oh man, it's so powerful. So amazing. And who are some of the companies or people who have jumped on board to help with this mission? I know Oakley has been a big supporter. Who else has been out there making this happen with you over the last few years?
Well, 6 Hour is our one of our big sponsors, also sponsor of Jack Carr for sure. They've been wonderful. Absolutely a great partner for sure. We have GoRuck. We've done some stuff with Black Rifle Coffee. Born Primitive. It's a SEAL veteran-owned company as well. Allegiance Flags. Chula Vista Brewing Company. We have a beer.
I saw that today. I saw that. That's awesome. Yeah. I was like, man, I live in Utah. They can't just ship it here. You have to jump through all these hoops to get it in here. But maybe I'm going to California next week. Maybe I could smuggle some back in. Don't tell anyone.
Yeah. It's a great Pilsner. And it's amazing. It's great. I mean, it's just, like I said, it's all about giving back to the community. It's all about giving back to the community. And this is for us. This is for the community. And this is for all the men and women that wore that uniform. And coming up on Memorial Day, this is for all the men and women that made the ultimate sacrifice for the lives that we live in, the freedoms that we all enjoy today. I mean, we're tipping a glass. Every time I, enjoy a beverage, I'm always tapping the table and remember for them, because as I have a drink, in good times, I'm having a good drink. I'm having a drink for them as well. So that's why we do it. And it's just important. I'm just really happy that, we got this beer out and we're going to celebrate in the community and get it out there to everyone.
Amazing. I think I'm going to have to drive down from LA to Chula Vista to pick some of that up when I'm in
Come on down.
California
you have a place
week.
Here,
so,
you know that.
Oh, thanks, brother. Awesome. And how can people help out the foundation? How can they find you online? Best Defense Foundation. Is it .org?
Yeah.
bestdefensefoundation.org. And where else can they find you online and help out?
Yeah, we're all on social media, Instagram, Facebook. And also our website is bdf.org or bestdefensefoundation.org. There's a number, and on YouTube, we have a pretty extensive library of videos over the course of the years of the veterans. I mean, so many veterans, so many stories. I mean, just want to make sure that we capture, these stories, from the lips. I mean, we read history, we watch it, but to actually hear it from the guys that created the history, that's what's important. And, we have an extensive video collection. So go onto YouTube and just, put in Best Defense Foundation, and you'll see a lot of great videos that we've done over the years. But, honestly, we're all about our mission. It's taking care of the ones who took care of us. We help families. We want to make sure we give back. Our 3 pillars are Battle for Return programs. We have Vietnam coming up, and as well. And also our educational pillar, our education initiative, make sure the next generation understands, family, country, and service. And also our third is our transition program. So I worked for the NFL for the transition program for the last 7 years, and talking to a lot of my buddies. I live down here in San Diego, especially our SEAL community. There's not a lot of programs like we have in the NFL and the resources available. So I want to make sure that we tap into those resources and help our guys. And we're connecting them with NFL players. Matter of fact, we have a transition program coming up in Utah next month in June. I'm pretty excited about. We have a connection of Navy SEALs and Green Berets, and also some NFL players. We're helping each other out, trying to lift each other up, push each other, and have that bond and brotherhood to make sure that we're all successful moving forward in life.
Oh man, well, I can't wait to help out. And capturing those stories is so special and so important. As you know, my grandfather didn't make it back from World War II, and his son, my father, always wished he had like just a letter from somebody in that squadron that he could read and find out what his dad was like back then, 1944, 1945. Like what was he like? And because once again, back then, nobody else really talked about it. Everybody moved on. Like everybody, especially once you move into the 50s and 60s, everybody's working so hard, driving forward. They're not talking about the war. So he didn't really have a chance to get to know his dad at all through anyone else. Capturing these stories like you're doing gives those kids, those grandkids, and future generations that touch point, that connection that they would never have otherwise. So it's so important, and I sincerely appreciate everything that you're doing, and I sincerely appreciate your friendship. It's an honor to know you and call you a friend, and I'm looking forward to getting out there on some of these past battlefields with those guys that sacrificed it all so that we could be free. So let's make that happen.
Amen. Thank you so much. Thank you for what you do as well, man. Your books have been really inspiring, especially True Believer, and you're talking about transition. I mean, read that book. It's, it's special. So thank you.
Appreciate that. All right, man. Well, let's get together soon. And thanks for doing this.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Welcome to the gear highlight portion of the Danger Close podcast. I figured I'd talk about some of the different companies who have sponsored Best Defense Foundation and their mission to take care of those who took care of us and take veterans back to the battlefields on which they fought, oftentimes, most often actually, for the last time, to get some closure on the things that they did in downrange. So incredible foundation, Best Defense Foundation for sure. Check them out on the social channels and their website, bestdefensefoundation.org. So in addition to Born Primitive, which is a veteran-owned company, Go Ruck, another veteran-owned company, and Chula Vista Brewery, which now has an awesome beer that helps Best Defense Foundation, veteran-owned company as well. And by the way, next time I'm in Southern California, I might just load up the car with a couple of cases of that. I think it's a Pilsner, and maybe, don't tell anybody, bring it back to Utah, but shh, don't tell anybody. So in addition to those companies, these companies here help Donnie Edwards and his mission with the Best Defense Foundation. So right here, Pelican, of course, those of us in the military, hunters, law enforcement, tactical shooters, we've been using Pelican cases for a long time. This is the 1170 right here. Really good size for a full-size pistol, especially if you're traveling, and you can lock it up right here, put it in another bag that's also locked for airlines. So I have a few of these right here. So Pelican, thank you for helping out. Best Defense Foundation, same thing. Oakley, an Oakley Standard Issue, which is a division of Oakley that focuses on the military and veterans. They have been supporters of Best Defense Foundation for a long time. So thank you to Oakley for that. And here we go. Oh, Black Rifle Coffee Company. They have been supporters of Best Defense Foundation. This is their exclusive coffee club subscription. So every month you get a different coffee, and it has a different design on it. Like, look at that. Oh, Sweet Van. And that's exactly what this is. Sweet Van right there. So veteran-owned and operated Black Rifle Coffee Company. They've been doing a ton for veterans from their inception up through today. So check them out. And then Allegiance Flag Supply. So right here, the one and only thing they do is make the flag here in the United States of America. So check them out for sure if you are in the market for a flag. And thank you guys for all you do for Best Defense Foundation. And then SIG. So this, if you've been following me for a while, you know, is the 226. And this is something that went downrange with me on every deployment. This is the 50th anniversary edition right here. And thank you to SIG for all you do for me, for my family, for the country, for veterans, and for Best Defense Foundation. So check these companies out for sure, and help support Donnie and his mission with Best Defense Foundation to take care of those who took care of us. Thank you for tuning in to the Danger Close podcast, an Ironclad original presented by 6 Hour. You can find more about Donnie Edwards at Donnie, DONNIE_Edwards on Instagram, and then Best Defense Foundation on Instagram and bestdefensefoundation.org. So check them out for sure. Check out their partners and contribute if you can. It's an amazing mission and a very important one. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you next time on Danger Close.